Hello, I'm Patricia Sigmund. I'm here today to talk with the amazing and trailblazing Pat Schroeder, who's going to share with us memorabilia from her decades in politics and her insights about women in politics. Where do you think that women are now in the growth and evolution of women in politics as compared to where women were when you entered Congress and even when you left?
Well, we have Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. So, Nancy Pelosi's done a tremendous job as Speaker. And part of why I think people like her so much is that she doesn't let them push her around. She says what she thinks. And she's not playing any games. So I really think she's done a really good job. And I think that's reflected on other women too, that they've really come through very well.
And do you think that women in running for political office and in political office now should be more fight back oriented, more bring the fight to the opposition oriented, or what do you think is the way that women can make gains in getting in office and holding public office?
I remember trying to help one woman who was running, and she called me one day absolutely in tears. Her opponent was running an ad against her, and it was a male lion roaring with his paw going across the sand. And it said, "Is she ready for the den?" Right? And she was just, what am I going to do? I said, "You're going to have a press conference, and you're going to walk out there, and you're going to say, 'That's the first male lion I've seen awake.' The women lions are the ones that get the food, run the whole pack, do the whole bit. What did they do to that lion to get it up?" And I said, "You're going to have fun with it." And she was like, "Oh, yeah." So I think sometimes we take everything so internally and we get so tight around the knot. I have fun with it. Say, what is this? My first opponent used to call me Little Patsy. And he was like 3 inches shorter than I was. I would say, "Well, thank you." and people would all laugh, and he didn't get it. I loved it. You just have to keep a sense of humor about it.
But you're talking about circumstances where not only do you keep a sense of humor, but you do fight back in your own way.
You fight back with a sense of humor. I don't think you just stand up and say, "Well, that was a terrible thing to do." That was ridiculous.
So there are women right now serving in the House of Representatives and making a lot of news, a lot of headlines, and garnering a lot of momentum and attention. Talk to us about what you see right now in the House of Representatives and the role of women.
Well, if my husband were here, he would say, I was clearly the AOC of 1973. And that's probably true. Everybody was like a 32-year-old in here with 2 little children. What is this? What is this? And wants to be in armed services and wants to, she's anti-war. And I was like everything that you weren't supposed to be. I think that they're bringing a whole new message to the Congress, and the suits may not like it, but they should get over it and listen, because I think they might learn a lot about how America's changing, and how they really should listen. And that was kind of what my mission was. When I ran for office, there was one elected official in the Democratic Party that backed me. And he was an African American. He was the only African American. We were like all alone. And I know people thought we were absolutely, what are they doing? This is crazy, yada, yada, yada. But that's what really life's all about. You've got to learn to duck your head and roll with the waves to learn what's going on.
And so now you see so many women running, and you're You see the work of organizations like Ruth's List and Emily's List promoting women running for public office and supporting them. And what do you think that is different now? And what do you think women need to know about how to help each other?
Well, we had none of that. I mean, none of that. We had nothing like Ruth's List and nothing like Emily's List. So yes, it's marvelous that there's some support. Gloria Steinem used to say, if women would just give other women the amount of money they paid for their last outfit, we could take over the world. And she wasn't far from wrong, you know. Why? I used to see how people gave me money because it's all, you know, if you're in Congress, it's all. So the same guy that would give the other Democrats in the area $500 would give me $50. And I think, you don't want to confront him and say, what do you think, I get a discount? I mean, what is this? But it happens. I mean, it is so much harder. And I would also see how men raise money versus women. My husband gets phone calls from his classmates saying, I'm raising money for the symphony and I'm raising money, and they all trade checks, you know. Women don't do that. Every single thing is like, well, I don't know, is it really worth it? We're beginning to get through that, but we still have a long way to go. I mean, there's a long way before women have anywhere near the equal funding. So we kind of always have to do it on the cheap. I used to make my commercials in half the time saying, I have to talk really fast because you see I can only buy half of this or doing it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's the real world. I mean, they're only giving you half as much money, you can only buy half a commercial or half a piece of paper.
What do you think needs to happen to change that? Do you think that having a woman as a president or a vice president, what do you think will change that dynamic?
Well, it's very gradual, but the one thing that gives me hope is 2 years ago, my 13-year-old granddaughter was having to go to France because her father had a sabbatical in France. So she calls me and she says, Grandma, I don't know anybody there, and my French isn't particularly good. She lives in Montana. They don't speak French in Montana. So she says, I think I'm going to run for president of the school. I'll meet a lot of people and I'll have to practice my French. To which I almost dropped the phone. And I took a deep breath and said, that's a fabulous idea. Well, she did, and she won, which is really quite amazing. I didn't expect to win. But I thought, in my generation, I don't think I know one person my age that would have ever solved that problem that way. And maybe this generation is going to finally get it, because here's this 13-year-old. It's a logical thing. If you move in and you don't know anybody and your language isn't good, this is going to make you talk and it's going to make you meet. And it works. But even if it didn't work, she still had learned to talk and meet. She got 2 out of 3 if she'd done that. She ended up getting 3 out of 3. But if more women do that, that's going to be great. One of the frustrating things is, first of all, talking women into running. Because, well, I don't know if I should, and, you know. And then if they're running against a man, the whole idea is, well, you know, do I really want to beat him? Well, of course you do. That's why you're running. And you think you're better, so you've got to tell him. And telling somebody you're better than. I went to Harvard Law School, and I remember them coming and saying to us, you women don't tell people what you've done. The men put in, you know, in 3rd grade, I was president of the class. The women think, well, yeah, I mean, that was 3rd grade. So we tend to downplay our own things. And maybe this new generation isn't going to do it. That's the only thing that gives me hope, and then maybe it'll be better. But it can't be fast enough as far as I'm concerned.
Well, certainly women like you who blazed that trail early inspire and give courage to those of us who run later, right? And your granddaughter who ran for office for her school was probably inspired knowing the history of her family that you had done it, right? So is part of that just leading by example.
Well, Geraldine Ferraro was a good friend, and I kept saying to her, don't feel bad. If there's anything that I think you really did, it's a whole lot of young girls saw you on TV running for vice president. Now, don't tell me you didn't win. That's going to make a difference. And I think it is going to make a difference. Everybody's going to see more and more of that, and it's going to make a difference. But, oh man, it's been a long time. I'm 80 years old. Come on, hurry up.